Imagine hearing scratching sounds inside your air vents at night, and then seeing fingers sliding through the grates. This story will make you think twice about what's hiding in your own home. Our tale begins with John, a man who recently moved into a charming old house in a quiet neighborhood. He loved the vintage charm and character of the place, but he had no idea what awaited him. John settled into his new home, enjoying the peaceful atmosphere. But it wasn't long before he began to notice strange sounds at night. At first, it was just a faint, scratching noise, barely audible. He brushed it off, thinking it was just the old house settling. But the scratching grew louder and more persistent. He could hear it coming from the air vents, and it seemed to move from room to room. John's curiosity got the better of him. One night, he decided to investigate. He grabbed a flashlight and opened the vent in his bedroom. He peered inside, but saw nothing unusual. The scratching continued, unnerving him. Days turned into weeks, and the strange noises persisted. John grew more anxious, unable to sleep. The scratching was accompanied by a faint shuffling sound, as if something was moving inside the walls. He reached out to an exterminator, suspecting that rodents might be the cause. The exterminator inspected the house, but found no signs of pests. John was left with more questions than answers. One night, as he lay in bed, he heard the scratching and shuffling again. But this time, it was louder and closer. John felt a chill run down his spine as he turned to look at the vent near his bed. To his horror, he saw fingers. Long, pale fingers sliding through the grates. John's heart pounded as he stared in disbelief. He quickly turned on the light, but the fingers disappeared. John couldn't ignore the strange occurrences any longer. He decided to document everything, hoping to find a pattern or explanation. He set up cameras around the house, focusing on the air vents. The footage revealed nothing out of the ordinary during the day, but at night, the cameras captured the scratching sounds and the eerie sight of fingers sliding through the vents. John was terrified. Desperate for answers, John reached out to a paranormal investigator named Sarah. She had a reputation for uncovering the truth behind unexplained phenomena. He hoped she could help him. Sarah arrived at the house and conducted a thorough investigation. She sensed a strong, malevolent presence and believed that the house might be haunted. She set up equipment to capture any paranormal activity. That night, as John and Sarah reviewed the footage, they saw something chilling. The fingers appeared again, but this time, a shadowy figure could be seen lurking behind the vents. Sarah felt a cold dread wash over her. She decided to perform a cleansing ritual, hoping to rid the house of the malevolent presence. She gathered her tools and began the ritual, chanting incantations and burning sage. The atmosphere grew tense. As the ritual progressed, the scratching and shuffling grew louder. The air vents rattled, and a cold breeze swept through the house. John watched in fear, unsure of what would happen next. Suddenly, the vents burst open, and a dark, shadowy figure emerged. It had long, twisted fingers and hollow eyes. The figure lunged at Sarah, but she stood her ground, continuing the ritual. The figure let out a chilling scream and began to dissipate. The air grew warmer, and the scratching and shuffling ceased. John and Sarah breathed a sigh of relief, knowing the malevolent presence was gone. John was grateful to Sarah for her help. The house felt different, lighter. He could finally sleep peacefully, knowing the nightmare was over. But the experience had left a lasting mark on him. He couldn't shake the memory of the shadowy figure and the fingers in the vents. It was a reminder of the unseen forces that lurk in the darkness. John knew he would never forget the terror he had faced. John decided to learn more about the history of the house. He visited the local library, hoping to find old records or newspapers that could shed light on the strange occurrences. He discovered that the house had a dark past. It was built over a century ago, and had seen many owners, some of whom had mysteriously disappeared. The most recent owner was a reclusive woman named Margaret, who vanished without a trace years ago. John felt a chill as he read about Margaret. The description of her long, pale fingers and a presence that unsettled everyone matched what he had seen. Could she be the source of the haunting? Determined to find answers, John reached out to the town's historical society. They provided him with more information about the house and its former occupants. He learned that Margaret was rumored to have dabbled in dark arts and had a fascination with the afterlife. John's research led him to believe that Margaret's spirit might be trapped in the house, seeking something or someone. He decided to perform another investigation, this time with more advanced equipment. He enlisted the help of a local, paranormal, research group. They arrived with EMF meters, infrared cameras, and spirit boxes. They set up their equipment around the house, focusing on the air vents and the areas where John had experienced the most activity. As night fell, the investigation began. The team monitored the equipment, listening for any signs of paranormal activity. The air was tense, and everyone felt a sense of anticipation. Suddenly, the EMF meter spiked, and the spirit box crackled to life. A distorted voice came through, barely audible. It said, "Help me." The team exchanged uneasy glances, knowing they had made contact. The voice continued, "Margaret. Trapped." The investigators tried to communicate with the spirit, asking questions and recording the responses. The answers were fragmented and eerie, but they pieced together a story. Margaret's spirit was indeed trapped in the house. She had performed a ritual to extend her life, but had inadvertently bound herself to the property. Her restless spirit had been searching for a way to be freed. John felt a mix of fear and determination. He wanted to help Margaret find peace, but he knew it would not be easy. He consulted with the paranormal investigators, and they devised a plan to perform a cleansing ritual. The ritual required specific items, including a personal belonging of Margaret's, and a powerful amulet, known to break spiritual bonds. They searched the house, looking for anything that might belong to Margaret. In the attic, they found an old, dusty trunk. Inside were various personal items, including a diary, a locket, and a black candle. John felt a connection to these objects, knowing they held the key to freeing Margaret. The night of the ritual arrived, and the atmosphere was charged with energy. The investigators set up a circle in the living room, placing the items in the center. They lit the black candle, and began to chant the incantation. The air grew colder, and the scratching and shuffling returned, louder than ever. The house seemed to come alive, reacting to the ritual. Shadows danced on the walls, and a chilling wind swept through the room. As the chanting continued, Margaret's spirit appeared, her pale fingers reaching out from the air vents. She was drawn to the circle, her hollow eyes filled with sorrow. The investigators held their ground, completing the incantation. The black candle flickered, and the amulet glowed, with a faint light. Margaret's spirit let out a mournful wail, and the air grew still. The scratching and shuffling ceased, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. John knew they had succeeded. Margaret's spirit was finally free. The house felt different, lighter, and more peaceful. John was grateful to the investigators for their help. The experience had changed John. He had faced his fears, and uncovered the dark history of his home. He knew he would never forget the terror he had faced, but he also felt a sense of accomplishment. He continued to live in the house, but now, he felt a sense of peace. He knew that Margaret was no longer trapped, and that the strange occurrences would not return. John had helped a restless spirit find peace, and had learned a valuable lesson about the unknown. If you enjoyed this terrifying tale, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more scary stories that will keep you up at night.